this darker pigment. Okay, so I'll have to look up why they're called black-eyed Susans. Hi everybody, thanks for joining me today. I am going to do a quick painting in my sketchbook. I don't normally just pop in here and do sketches freehand like this, but I wanted to capture my black-eyed Susans before they faded away in the summer heat. I captured a bunch of video this weekend and they are just amazing and they're showing their full glory, so I thought I would just show you guys really quick how to do a black-eyed Susan. I don't know if they're a part of the coneflower family, but they sure do have the same shape. What I do know is mine are very happy right now. This is the 3rd or 4th year I've had them planted, so I'm going to do just a bunch of them, and they're all going to be in different focus points. So we're just going to start with the brown middle. What do you call this part? I don't know. The part in the middle where all the bees and the butterflies like to gather. I can't remember the name of this right now on the top of my head. Isn't that funny? And then I'm going to use some, I think this was Azo Yellow from Core, Q-O-R, not the one that you might find at Michael's. And we're just going to press and lift on these petals. They don't have to be perfect. We're going to add some of the details after this layer kind of settles into the paper a little bit, and just have some fun. I mean, these are such beautiful flowers. So story behind it, there's always a story in my paintings. I remember going to the Finger Lakes of New York where my sister used to live, and she had black-eyed Susans, or maybe it was Pennsylvania, I can't remember. They were gorgeous, just gorgeous. They were all over, and she didn't really like them because they took over her garden. And I thought, oh my goodness, if I could grow these in my state, I would be so happy. And here I am, a few decades later, and just loving them. They do spread, but I'm okay with that because I have an area where they're growing right now, and nothing else grows because it's very rocky and it's hard to plant anything else. So if you're looking for something that will kind of like just plant it and forget it, these are great. They've made it through some pretty hot summers, so I'm happy about that. And I don't really water them. Now today, on this day that I'm filming, I did, because I want them to do well. They're happy and I want them to stay happy, so I'm just going to make sure that they make it through this hot summer. If you're dealing with heat like we are in our state, I know everybody is worldwide, so I'm just going to give them a little bit of water today, and that'll be it for the year, because I know they're going to be okay. So I'm just tap, press, lift, tap, press, lift. You can use the side of your brush, center, doesn't really matter. You can see in the video that the petals are just kind of all over the place. Now as we get closer to our picture, or to the front of the painting, I'm going to make the petals a little bit bigger, give perspective. Picking up some more paint, kind of go over. That's okay because that highlight looks great in my view. This is just a sketch in my journal It doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, any painting you make, it is your vision, how you want to make it. So I've never been one to look for perfection, just what you've envisioned your painting to be. That's what matters. Tap. And in the back, we're going to make them a little smaller as they are further from us. And they bend a little bit, so we'll just kind of give that a little bit of a twist on it. Okay. And when that dries, we'll come back in and add a little bit more, and we'll add some shading underneath the cone of the center of our flower with some darker browns. I've used, this is burnt umber, and this again is azo yellow from Core. Okay, we'll add the green leaf and some stems. I'm not going to overdo it on the background because this again is just a sketch, and I want it to be just a fun cluster of our black-eyed Susans. They're so dainty and happy. I am choosing black-eyed Susans for July, 1, because they're blooming and they're happy, and 2, because as I'm painting for the month of July and continuing our celebration of not only World Watercolor Month, but also continuing our celebration of my nation's 250th birthday, I was researching flora and fauna in our nation, and I discovered that black-eyed Susans were one of George Washington's flowers that he grew in his garden. So here we are. I'm happy to share in his joy and continue it. I don't want to add too much water and create those lines. Now this journal paper is, I got it on Amazon Prime Day, so I don't know, it's not any special paper. It was just a good deal, which is fine. I like to save money. And watercolor paper, while it is, I think, in my opinion, one of the most important items that you can buy, but when you're practicing just techniques or just want to get an image down really quick, I'm okay with less expensive watercolor paper. However, it doesn't always do what you want it to do, because you can see these hard lines here, and if I were to come back in here and try to feather that out and soften that hard line, it probably wouldn't do so well. So I'm going to leave it and just let it be as it is. And then we'll come back in after all of this dries, and I'll come in with some darker pigment and fill out some of the centers of the black-eyed Susan. Be right back. Okay, I think they're all dry. I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to use my number 0 round. This one has been really great for me. I'm going to come in and just kind of dot in some of this darker pigment. Okay, so I'll have to look up why they're called black-eyed Susans, because technically they're not black. Maybe from a distance they do look black, but I will be using a darker mix of burnt umber and indigo as we get to the bottom, because it just gives some shadow, and then this is up in the light, so that's fine with me. So I will put here, if I can remember, the reason why they're called black-eyed Susans once I do some research. I like learning about plants, understanding their history, where they come from. I have a couple of fun projects coming up for the month of July. And I've noticed that my palette is mostly burnt umber, burnt sienna, and indigo. So we're going to add a few colors. It's just worked out that way so far. I have some pink coming this weekend, so look forward to that. It is still related to our theme of things that make that are symbolic in America's history, that have to do with flora and fauna. So be on the lookout for that. And then I think my most exciting one is pretty much all green. So one interesting fact about these black-eyed Susans, and I'll put the video, sorry about my nose, guys. It's allergies. I had my window open. When I was filming, I was noticing, of course, I was trying to capture some of the bees that were resting. They were hot, and when I was watering the black-eyed Susans, they were just like, yes, thank you. And I'll put that video here. But I also was noticing again, can't remember this name. Lord help me. I was noticing that this cone shape center, before it's completely developed, it's flat. And it then it's not symmetrical. Like, it's perfectly mathematical in design. It's just amazing. Nature is amazing to me. I think that's what fascinates me. Not that it's mathematical, because I'm not good at math, but that it's just God's design. I don't know how else to describe that. So again, coming in with some dark burnt umber and a little bit of indigo, and then you can either just wet your brush with some clean water and then bring that up, or you can continue to lighten your value as you go higher on this dome or cone. I might have to stop and figure out what that word is. Or not. It's okay. We don't have to know everything. It's just us, right? I know somebody who's looking it up right now. Okay, I think that's about it. I am going to add just a few more details on the petals because there's a crease. So you have a crease that will come in each of these petals, similar to this, but I'm going to add a little bit more. Again, this is a little bit more of a loose floral. We're just giving it some details and separation from each other, like these two blended together. I want to show that this petal is here and that this one is going this way. Just a few more details. Be right back. All right, I think she's dry, so we are going to just add just a few details in the petals. All right. I also did some research while I was waiting for this to dry. And if you're interested, I'm taking my small 0. I did mention that this has been an amazing brush. I have shaky hands, so it has always been difficult for me to do the smaller lines without going crazy and shaking. I do have a liner brush. This is by Princeton. It's a number 2. I mean, it looks crazy fuzzy right now, but once you get it wet, it's very small. I can't really use that. It's super shaky, so it makes it complicated, and these lines, it just doesn't work for me. So this little guy does. Now, I will say I've already ruined him. You can see what I highly recommend. I don't know if you guys can see that. The tip is already a little bit bent. It still works, but do not mix your colors with this brush. Use like an older brush. Oops, see, there's shake. It's okay. Flowers aren't perfect either. Well, the centers are. They are perfect. God's creation is definitely designed that way. Okay. Use an older brush. Like I had a Royal something or another that I bought when I first started watercolor, and those brushes started to fall apart and bristles started coming off. So if you have one of those, use those brushes to mix your paints that you're going to use for whatever painting you're planning on, and get enough paint going, because if you use these, the tips will bend. So bad idea. This was on sale. I'm not, a little disappointed in myself for not taking care of it, yes, but it's okay. I will buy another one someday. Just coming through, making a few highlights, separating, or actually lowlights. Not picking up too much water because I don't want hard edges. And I don't have to go fast. I think when I first started painting watercolor, I was watching, really, really beautiful artists. And they were going really fast. And I thought, ooh, I've got to go fast too. And I found out that that didn't work for me. So I take my time, and it's been a little bit easier that way. So you'll have to figure out what works for you. There are some techniques that it does help to go faster, so it's more natural, but not everything needs to be quick. And practice new techniques. If you see something that you're like, ooh, I like the way that worked out, this one I'm going to separate right here, that little curve, so we can see that those two are different. This one, we're a little shadow right there. So if you see a technique that you are interested in, practice on paper like this. This is just a simple journal. I practiced my turtle painting before I did it on the good paper, and it turned out okay, but there's still some hard edges. So it's good to practice. Just try things out. It's fun. All right. I am going to mix up some green. I'm going to use sap green and a little bit of Cascade green. And once I mix that up, with my old brush, we will paint some leaves. Okay. So I'm using my liner brush, which I just said I don't like using, but we're going to use it because I want you to see how some brushes are helpful, some are not. So I've got some sap green in my liner brush. There's a lot of pigment in there, so I'm going to tap it just gently to get most of that water off so I don't make a huge puddle, which I don't want to do. And I'm going to start here and gently bring a line down. Well, that wasn't too bad. Don't underestimate yourself. All right. I did a little research. I'm so excited. Did you know that the black-eyed Susans, well, first of all, they're not black like we talked about already. They are brown, but they are called black-eyed Susans, they think, because the high contrast. There's such a contrast between the yellow and the dark, dark brown that people just decided to name them black-eyed Susans. So, okay, we'll go with that. Also, they are native to the U.S., specifically the central and eastern U.S., which makes sense because that's where I've seen them. So if you want to grow them and you don't live in those areas, I don't know, they're very hardy and drought tolerant, so I don't know. And they don't take much care. I've never fertilized them, ever. Well, I take that back. In the beginning when I planted them, I did. I gave them a lot of fertilizer, but other than that, I've not touched them. So, and they're just gorgeous, as you can see in the videos. But they were found in the woodlands and the prairies across the U.S. when the lands were first discovered, and then cultivated in gardens. So they made it all the way back to Washington and his garden, which was just a pretty cool story. And I would imagine anything in George Washington's garden with his wife were pretty popular back then. Okay, now I'm going to use my number 6 long round because I love the length of the brush. It just gives me nice long flowers and stems. So I'm going to tap, press, and release. Probably could have done better on that one. That's all right. The flowers are in the way. So some fun facts about the pattern in the cone before it lifts up. So you can see that it's very flat here. Well, it's raised up here, but here it's a little bit flatter, and it's flatter. And the picture that I showed earlier, I'll put it here again. It is called a Fibonacci spiral. It is a floret that grows in opposing spiral patterns based on the golden ratio. You guys have heard of this. I've heard of that. And I wasn't always listening in my math class. But I remember that part because that, I think, is where part of my fascination with nature began. Everything is perfectly designed. when you think of the way ice forms, they say that I've seen images of ice crystals under microscopes that are, you know, the pattern, if you magnify it by a million and a million, it's perfect, and it's a perfect pattern, and that can only be designed by God. Like, there's no other explanation. And the Fibonacci spiral is a perfect pattern. But the reason for that is to maximize efficiency in that flower, to save space essentially for the seed heads before they rise in that cone. Isn't that cool? Like, it's all like perfect packing. So if you're going on a trip, try to think of that Fibonacci spiral. Kidding. No. I'm not. It's a great idea. Okay, so adding some more Caroline green. Just give some lines, just however you want it, or not. It's up to you, right? This is our sketchbook. This is where we design, like, how do I want my flowers to look? I'm also going to add a little bit more indigo and burnt umber to the Fibonacci spiral. Now that we know, oh, we're going to sound so smart when you guys show your painting to your family and say, do you want to know what this is? And if you have children, or like I do, and they tell you not everything has to be a teachable moment, you tell them, yes, it does. Because one of these days, they're going to know how to be critical thinkers and not need to research everything, or they'll have the desire to learn more. Isn't that beautiful? Just a touch to give it some dimension and to show where the light's coming from. So you can either focus on one side and say the sun is coming from this way. The sun was really, really bright that day, so I just kept the shadows under here. But if you wanted to, and the sun was coming from one direction, all of your darker pigment would be on this side, and just to show curvature. And that's it. That's it, guys. We could go in and build some black background, but we're going to keep this simple. I don't think this paper would hold a lot of water for a background, but if you were to do it, you would just come in and let's say, let's just do a little piece down here. You would come up with a little bit of water, clean water, and not your dog's hair. That is one thing, if you've been watching some of my videos, and you see my dog on walks with me, you will also see her hair on my paintings all the time. But that's okay because I love her. And then I just picked up, I think this is, it's in my palette, just sitting there. I think this is either ultramarine or, oh my goodness. Yeah, I think that's ultramarine. So, and then just come in here. It's a nice look. I like it next to the yellow, or you can use purple or whatever color you want. This is yours. This is your sketchbook, right? This is where we get to explore, like, what do I want to do? How do I want to challenge myself? What technique do I want to try today? And just do it. It doesn't have to be for anybody else but you. And this cone flower, Black-Eyed Susan, this shape is so simple to do. And I encourage you guys to come in here and give it a try. I know you can do it. I have faith in you. And I hope this encourages you to go outside, look at your surroundings, find a flower, find something green, find something alive. Sit down, look at it, and paint it. If you've done any of those things, then my job is done. I hope you have a wonderful day. Until the next time.